Okay, welcome to the first class work help video. So on the first page of the quadratic models bookwork, I'm going to show you how to do the first problem for I. So on this problem, it says use your results from the two previous investigations to help you sketch these graphs. Well, the two previous investigations are in the book. Um, we did something similar. We did the investigation using um, Desmos. So you might have an idea of what this graph looks like without doing these other methods, but I'm going to give you a couple alternative methods besides just having an intuition about it. So the most obvious way is without the calculator. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a little table here, an x, a table with x on the left and y on the right, okay? And first we're just going to say, okay, well, what happens if I put a number like, and we're going to start with the left just to make things easier. So we're going to like pick numbers from the left and move to the right, and then we'll see which these numbers is going to graph like inside of our graph paper here. One thing about math studies is usually they're going to give you problems that are parabolas that are nice and close to the origin. So assuming that's close to origin, we can start, we could like put a number like -10 in here. So let's say x equals -10, which would be this point here. And then so we'll go up here and we'll say, okay, if x equals -10, what is y going to be? And so if x is -10, we're going to put it in here. -10 squared is 100. 2 times 100 is 200 plus 1. Y is 201. Oh my gosh, that's way off the screen. So -10 is no, that's not a point that we're going to graph. Let's try -5 right there. -5 squared is 25 times 2 is 50, 51. No, that's way off the screen too. Do you see how this is +5 and this is +10? So, -5 is also very huge. Okay, so let's try -2. Okay, so -2 squared is going to be a +4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. Okay, so 2 times 4 plus 1, I just said that, equals 9. So if x is -2, then y is going to be 9. So we're going to graph that because that is inside of our graph paper. So there's -2 for x, and y is going to be 9, which is right there. Okay, so we just graphed the first point. The next point is going to be -1. X equals -1. We put that in, and -1 squared is +1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So y is equal to 3. So -1 comma 3. There we go. Now, this point is for x equals 0. If we put 0 in here, that's a pretty easy calculation. 0 squared is 0 times 2 is 0 plus 1. So we get y equals 1. Okay. And that we graph right here, 0, comma 1. And then you'll see a pattern happening here, as we always do with parabolas. We're going to put a +1 in, and we have 1 squared times 2, which is 2, plus 1 is 3. 3. Hey, wait a second, we just got 3 here also. Right? So even for +1 we get 3. So for -1 we get 3, and for +1 we get 3. And so we can see that we're starting to encounter the other side of a parabola. Parabolas go down and then they come back up, or vice versa. So now we can predict that the next one is going to be 9 because we know that parabolas are also mirror images from the left to the right. So if we put a +2 in there, 2 squared times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. And what do you know? Okay, so we have just graphed our parabola by hand. Okay, now let's say that, and that's what they asked us to do. They asked us to sketch the graph. So now let's try an alternative method with the calculator. Let's say that you don't like the using you don't like doing a lot of calculation by hand. So let's turn on the calculator, and the first thing you're going to do is go to y equals. Remember, in y equals, you need to have an equation with just y on the left side and everything else on the right side. And in our case, they very nicely gave us exactly that. So y equals 2x squared plus 1. I typed it in here already, but you remember how to do this, right? When you put in the x, you want to use this button here. When you want to put the squared, you could use this button, or you could use the caret and then the 2. Okay, and then when you do the squared, it's going to be up here on top, and to get out of that, you need to press that. So I'm just going to do that real quick to show you how it works. 2x, and then you're going to say squared, and then we want to see get out of the squared, and then oops, let's get rid of that, delete, and then oops, we're going to get out of that by pushing the arrow, and then plus 1, and so now we're done. Okay, 2x squared plus 1. Okay, we can get rid of this too. Okay, we can get rid of the parentheses here. Okay, we don't need that. Okay, so now we're going to graph it. Let's just make sure nothing else is graphed. When you have this equal sign black, that means we're going to graph it. I have a lot of other stuff in here. Maybe you do too. Let's make sure all the equal signs are turned off, which means they're not going to graph. Yeah, it's okay. So it's just going to graph that top one, 2x squared plus 1, which is what we want. We're going to graph it. And it does look a lot like this one. Now, do we know that it's exactly that? It's kind of hard to tell, right? So if we want to convert some points, there's two ways to do that. One is we could do trace, and then we just use left and right here to go up and down. Do you see how we're moving the trace cursor to the left and to the right? And so like for example, we want to know, is the point x negative 1, y equals 3, and so we could go to x equals negative 1. Well, we're kind of at x equals negative 1. We're not exactly there. We're at negative 1.06. Now, how do we get to exactly negative 1? Well, remember, if you just type in negative 1, then it'll take you to x equals negative 1. Okay, so x equals negative 1, y equals 3. Hey, what do you know? That's what we got here. What about the vertex? Is the vertex at 0, 1? So we can type in 0, enter. Yeah, it is 0, 1. Oh, what if we test this point here? Is this point going to be 2, 9? Yeah, 2. Yeah, it's 2, 9. Okay, so actually, let's pretend we didn't do this graph. If we type this in, graph it, we already have all these points, and then you could just copy this graph here. Another way you could get the points would be you do a second table. And if you do a second table, it gives you the points already in the table. You don't have to move the cursor around with trace. It'll just give you all the points, just like this table here. So look, negative 2, 9. We got that point, negative 2, 9. We got negative 1, 3. We got 0, 1. We got 1, 3. Got 2, 9. Okay. I explained a couple ways to do this problem. You only need to do one, of course, whatever you're comfortable with. But now's a good time to get practice with maybe using the method that you're not comfortable with. There's 4 problems here. Maybe do one with the calculator, and maybe try to do one without, just to get used to it. I think it really helps to understand the relationship between these tables and what the graph looks like. It develops your parabola intuition, and you can figure out how to do more complicated problems. Thank you.